Just take another breath. Our theme this month is power. And we're ending this month right now on the topic, the power of now. The power of now. And I want to make it very clear that now is more than just the present moment. That now is a convergence of energy. Now is the place where the so-called past, the so-called present, and the so-called future all merge into one. The example I like to use is that of a seed. If you have a seed in the palm of your hand, within that seed is all of the coding and all of the DNA material from its history from the beginning of time, the so-called past. Within that seed is also what it is in this moment, full of all of its potential and everything that it can do and be in this moment. And also encoded within that seed is its offspring, its legacy. Encoded within that seed is all that can come out of it for generations to come. All just right there in that seed. Right there in that seed. And whatever we do with that seed in this present moment has a rippling effect on its future. The power of now. So we here in the United States find ourselves in the midst of the global pandemic of the coronavirus, COVID-19. And a couple of days ago, without even doing a lot of testing in the United States, we hit more cases than any other nation in the world. Just take a breath. We don't know where all of this is going. And yet there's so much to learn from the power of this now moment. And in very real time, this virus is showing us exactly what we mean by now. So many of us are sheltering in place, as it's formally called, which are essentially health orders: stay home, stay out of the public arena, don't have much social contact, because this COVID virus is being spread one to another, and trying to halt its spread. Well, what we know is that this COVID virus didn't just pop out of nowhere. It has a past. It has a past, and furthermore, in trying to understand what to do today, it is requiring us to study and to learn its past. So many of us think of history as done. Like, why do we got to look back there as though everything starts in this moment? Everything doesn't start in this moment. That what's going on today is a result and consequence of the things that have happened before it. And some understanding of what's happened before is going to be very helpful and useful information in what it is that we need to be doing in the so-called present. Not just for judging and blaming. Now isn't the time to put just the blame game here, there, who did this or who didn't do that, just as in our own personal lives. But when you take an assessment of how you got to here And particularly if you can learn something from the lessons of other people who were in similar situations, it might just give you a heads up. You don't have to repeat the exact same mistakes just to do it your way. That it really is possible to learn something from the past. And then you have this present moment. Now is this convergence of the past, the present, and the so-called future. And in this present moment, there are always choices. There are always choices. And you can say, well, I didn't choose this virus. Well, no, we didn't choose the virus. Well, I didn't choose my stay at home. Well, no, you might not have chosen that either, but your experience is not what happens to you. Your experience is how you name what happens to you. Your experience is what you do with whatever is happening. That is your experience. So we have in this moment, this very present moment, an opportunity to do things that maybe we hadn't thought of doing before. We have opportunities that are possibilities that are going on right now, depending upon how we name what's going on. That can be healing, that can be transformative, that can be uplifting, that can be encouraging, and not just of the doom and gloom. I'm not saying be naive. I know there's some tough stuff going on out there. Financially, we're a church. Tell me all about it. Yes, when people aren't showing up, the money's not there, or the money's not coming in. It could be there are ways in which we could continue and support each other in ways that maybe we hadn't been thinking about before. But beyond just the doomsday, beyond just the doctor's diagnosis, well, you've got cancer, beyond just the immediate, oh, you owe the IRS some money, beyond whatever appears to be that immediate thing, there is always a lesson and there's always a gift in there if we will narrate it as such. If we will say that whatever this is that's going on right now, there's a blessing in here. Whatever it is that's happening, it's putting me in a different relationship to the things that I've had before. What can I see from this angle? What is afforded me now that wasn't afforded me before? And it's interesting to see the creativity. I'm really loving it. The ways in which people are quote unquote coping. I'm loving to see the connections that are taking place, the reaching out. Even in Interlight, we've made phone calls to people in ways that we haven't made before en masse, just to see how you're doing. You need some groceries? What's up? There's opportunities for connection that are happening here. There are opportunities to heal some stuff. In our fast-paced world, a lot of times we don't really take the time to be with the ones we supposedly live with. Now, I know there are a lot of kids that are just climbing the walls right now, not going to school. I know that there are a lot of parents who are climbing the walls because their kids are climbing the walls. I know a lot of people who are accustomed to having some time apart, that's been the salvation of their relationships. There are other people who are really grateful to have this time to kind of nuzzle and cozy up together. Regardless of how you look at it, there is an opportunity to heal now. There's an opportunity to deal with stuff that you haven't dealt with before. Yes, school may not be formally taking in place, but learning can take place. Learning can take place. Even if you aren't able to go and do your workouts, even if you aren't able to go to your soccer games or whatever, you can still do the drills, still do the exercise, still keep yourself mentally, physically engaged. Don't drop out just because you're restricted some from going outside. There are still ways, so you don't have that class. History is still going on. Interview somebody. Find out about their history. Cook something. Do some team building with the people in the house in terms of chores or whatever. It's what is your intent? What is your intent? Is your intent to grow? Is your intent to heal? Is your intent to learn? Is your intent to transform? Because if it is, there's always something that can be possible. There's a song that's been going on in my head. I was, like a lot of people, spending a lot more time online. And I love some of the talent shows. I like the first auditions in particular. But there was something, and it came up on one of my YouTube feeds, and it probably was because I had been looking at some of the talent shows. But it was this 11-year-old girl. She was singing in church, and she was singing this song, "Take Me to the King," which I actually hadn't remembered. She was so good, I had to Google her. And yes, of course, she had been like one of the top tiers in one of the, auditions, just talent shows just a few years later, like at 15 or 16. And there was the chorus of that. There was something that was resonating with me. And the chorus, it's a very Christian song, was "Take me to the King. I don't have much to bring. My heart is broken in pieces, but it's my offering." And there was something about that was just, And then I realized a couple of days ago what it was I was resonating with that. And it was not so much that my heart was broken in pieces at this point in time, but my plans are. My plans are. Like so many people, it felt like the rug was just like pulled right out from underneath me. We had been planning next week, as a matter of fact, at April 5th, to start having our Sunday services at the Veterans Building in downtown Santa Cruz, because we were coming close to closing the escrow on this 4+ year escrow we've had at Interlight. And just to find out they're not going to be able to close now. And we're going to be here till the fall. And all the things that were being based upon, that income stream coming in right now, and what is it that we do, and how is it that we hold on. And the very day that we were hearing from the buyer that they weren't going to be able to close in the spring, in May or June, was the very day we were putting in offer on some other space that we're not going to be in. A couple of days before that, I had put in on some space for my own personal residence. It's like I can go on and on, like all of these things where I just was so sure we were moving in this direction. We're not going in that direction. And I know this is multiplied. This is just like a smidgen of my life that I'm talking about. And I'm sure a lot of people here can relate. And as I was realizing that, and I like this way of translating songs, I'm always rearranging the lyrics to fit something that's going on in my life. And I thought, no, it isn't that my plans have been blown to pieces. Like she said, her heart was broken, and it isn't so much that my plans were broken, but what I recognized was that they were just in pieces. And I decided to not even have a judgment about that. I'm really practicing not being on that victim, villain, hero triangle. So it's like when you have a puzzle and all of the pictures of the jigsaw puzzle are together, but then you pull them apart and they're just pieces that are on the table now. It was more like that. And not really sure if these particular pieces are going to come together or whether there's some other pieces some other place. But I recognized as I was dealing with this, is that just as in that song, the scattering of the pieces of my plan was my offering to God. that there was a new kind of surrender that was taking place. A new kind of openness to possibilities. And I noticed this happening, that as my plans were getting more shattered and feeling like dying on the vine, what I've been finding is that my dreams have been coming back alive. My dreams. Getting off the treadmill, and that's not to say that I haven't been working, but the disruption of the daily pattern. One of the books I've been reading more recently is Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And that's what so many of us are doing right now. We're breaking the habit of being ourselves. The daily routines. I go here, I go there. This is my stress reliever. Whatever. I watch these basketball games. I get my Starbucks coffee over here. I go to this gym to work out. I go visit, my elders over here. Like whatever your routine is, in so many places, it's just being disrupted. And yet there is something within that disruption that is allowing for things that had been put off on the back burner. Whatever that is. It could be something as tangible as cleaning out a drawer or a closet or taking the time to write something or planting the seeds for some new collaboration. I don't know what that's like for you, but what I do know is that something happens in the present moment with the power of choice. The power of choice. Not saying that you can choose the condition, but the choice of what I'm going to do in the condition. See, a lot of times things are put upon us, things we don't want. We don't want to be laid off. Maybe we don't want that divorce. Maybe we don't want that cancer situation. Maybe we don't want this discordant thing that's happening over here or there. But if there's any part of us that will give up the struggling and the fighting about the fact that it's going on and just say, this is it today. This is what's happening today. This is the circumstance today. And just stand in it and choose to stand there. And if you choose to stand there and not make it so much about all these external things that have put this on me, you will find that you have more power at that moment. More power to decide what this means. No, you didn't want that pink slip. No, that's not what you wanted. But now that it's happening, you can ask yourself some questions. Where do I go from here? Not just what's going to happen to me, but where do I go from here? Maybe you don't want to be in that divorce situation. But you have a chance to ask yourself, who am I? Really, who am I? Not just this relationship but who am I? And what is it that life is calling me to do or to be about, because you can only move from where you are. So you may resent all of the things that are going on, but if there's any part of you that's willing to say, this is just the time of day that it is, and what can we make of this? There's an image that I always keep of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is one of my heroes. Those of us that, are a little gray-haired might have been part of the Free Mandela movement decades ago. And one of the things that impressed me the most is that when he was sentenced to life at age 47, this was not his first time in prison. It was just his last time in prison. They sent him off to Robben Island. And personally, I think it was a really dumb thing to send all of he and his colleagues to the same place in South Africa. And what they would do during the day, while they were in the lime quarries and doing all this hard labor, they were creating the new South African Constitution. He spent 27 years of that life imprisonment. He didn't get out till his 80s. And yet, in the midst of all of that, they kept visioning. They kept dreaming. They kept creating. So when that moment came, that rich moment in South African history, where they knew they had to make the change, when it was clear there is going to be a racial bloodbath here, if we don't take our foot off the necks of these native indigenous Africans, that the day of white supremacy was over. And this humbling, see, when I talk about the power of choice, part of what I love about the Mandela story is that Mandela chose to stay in prison. He was offered out many times. If he just renounced the abolition of apartheid, he could have been out anytime. And he's like, no, I'm going to stay here. Because you let me out, I'm telling you now, apartheid's going down. So if the condition of my freedom is I give up who I am and everything that I believe in, oh no, I'm going to stay in here. And furthermore, while I'm in here, I'm going to keep dreaming and I'm going to keep building. So that humble moment when they had to come to him and say, save us. We know we've locked you up, but we really need you now. Do you really believe in that nonviolence thing you were talking about? I know you said apartheid was going to come down, but do you really believe in that nonviolence thing? Because we could sure use you right now. Can you save us? And with the graciousness of heart, he said, yeah. But the reason why he was ready and the reason why he could step into it is because they had already written the new South African Constitution while he was in prison. So he was ready. He was ready. Don't waste this time. Whatever it is that your life is about, that now is the convergence of the so-called past, the so-called present, and the so-called future. That what we do today is going to set the tone for whatever it is that's next. Nobody's putting a gun to our head and telling us to stay inside. We're choosing to stay inside. We're making that choice because we can see that this sacrifice, no matter how much we don't want it, is for a greater good of the future. For the future. Because we can see that whatever it is today, that the sacrifices that we make today can make it a healthier environment for all of us later. I am so moved by that. I am so impressed by that. That something has finally come along that has gotten us beyond red, blue political stuff, that something has finally gotten us beyond xenophobia in this country or that country. Something has finally gotten us beyond who's documented, who's not documented, that we are all in this together. Energy knows no boundaries or nationalities, and neither does this virus. And it's making us come to grips with the fact that we are one planet, that we are one people. And what you do over here has a rippling effect over there. Because there's only one of us here. So when we choose this, when we choose to say, I'm going to cooperate for this for a better good, for a higher good. And you know something? Nature is our teacher. Nature has needed this reset. We have been on an unsustainable, consumeristic, materialistic, consumptive pattern for so long that it has led to unprecedented kinds of climate change. And just in the couple of months that the world has been chilling out, you know what? Nature is starting to restore herself. The skies are cleaner. Google Italy. The Venice canals that were just murky and dark, you can see to the bottom again and see the fish. This reset that we're doing, the power of this now, I'm asking us to get out of the how do we get back? Let's not go back. Let's not go back. Where can we go from here? Where can we go from here? As we're all going through this massive cold turkey detox. Cold turkey. And whatever our drugs of choice have been, the way that we anesthetize ourselves and the way that we zone out or avoid things or whatever, we are all being confronted with ourselves and our lives in ways that we might have been running away from or hadn't seen before. And you know, it takes 30 days to really break a habit and to set a new pattern. I don't know how long we're going to be in these quote-unquote home stays, shelter in place, but it's sure looking like it's going to be longer than 2 weeks. I'm just saying. So during this reset, as we're having this opportunity to think, to purge, to cleanse, to reconnect, to rethink, to realign, to readjust, to heal, to transform, to do all of these different things, even in the midst of our freak out. Where do we go from here? And I'm really hoping that we don't just pick up where we left off. I'm hoping that we're more conscious now, that we're more deliberate, that we're more aware of how we're using our energy, where we're going, how we're spending our time, where our money is going to. And these times where we're really having to be very, very thoughtful about it, particularly when we know money needs to go out and we are not seeing it come in. That shifts us, that changes us. But my contention here is that the power of this now moment, the power of this now moment, let's not miss it. And see, I want to end on this, that there really isn't the so-called past, the so-called present, and the so-called future. All of it is happening simultaneously. You cannot separate it out. There is no future that is somehow completely autonomous and disconnected from this present moment and what's happened before. Contrary to popular belief, you cannot isolate the past. Put it in a bottle, turn on the top, and say, that's it. You can't isolate just this moment, the so-called present, outside of everything that comes with it. Even you. You are part of an unbroken chain of life since the beginning of time. You are carrying with you in your veins all the DNA of your ancestors. There is no just you here right now. But look at the possibilities of that. The possibilities of thinking anew, the possibilities of really seeing ourselves as one planet and one people, the possibilities of getting over it, of realizing we're all in the same thing together. And this so-called past, we're still impacting it. Just as I was talking about the environmental reset that's happening. When we change our consumptive patterns, we heal damage that was done to the earth in the past. When you heal some family relationships, when you heal some stuff that's been going on in your life, clean out your heart, you're healing the past. You're healing the past. Just let that sink in for a moment. So that unsettled consciousness, whatever that is, it could be just family dynamics, it could be racism, it could be something big. But the stuff just sits there and lurks, waiting for somebody else to resonate with it. And when we shift who we are so we're no longer resonating with it, then that vibration of the past starts to heal. It starts to quiet down. It starts to be like the virus that is there but is neutralized by our stronger antibodies now. And that's what we're doing. We're developing some new antibodies. So that when we do go forward to whatever that is, we can do it stronger, healthier, clearer, more grounded, more loving, more compassionate, more unified as a global world than we have ever been before. for. If we choose it. Let us pray. We give thanks in this moment for life, the abundance of life. Even in the midst of all of the talk about death, babies are still being born. Life is still regenerating. That for each person that dies from the coronavirus, there are more that come through it on the other side. Because of the resiliency of the body temple. So I call forth in this moment our resiliency. I call forth in this moment our healing in our home. I call forth in this moment the uplifting of our perception. Create in us a clean heart, O God, and renew the right spirit within us. I call forth divine order and right action. I call forth the seeming miracle. All needs met. Knowing that when one door closes, a window opens. So we let go of all of the plans and allow for the divine to shine in our lives in ways that we could have never anticipated. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. We send love and compassion to all of the suffering that's going on. Physical, financial, emotional, whatever, political, whatever it may be. And we call forth healing, peace. Peace be still. Peace be still. We call forth the creativity, the transformation, the deep connection. Holy Spirit, keep watch with us. We have the audacity to declare life to be good and very, very good. We just get out of the way. We allow it to be, and so it is.